Right, so this is topic 4 on life and death, and it's linked with the sanctity of life. All right, now, let's get straight into it. Describe the Catholic views on the sanctity of life. So, Catholics believe that all life is sacred, all right, because that all life's been created by God, all right, which is taught in Genesis, or the creation story, okay? That's one reason that life is sacred. Also, another reason why Catholics have got their views on the sanctity of life is the fact that God has created us for a purpose, which cannot be completed if we are dead. All right, the Old Testament teaches that I know the plans I have for you, okay? And also the idea that therefore, if God has made us with our lives for a reason, with a plan, so therefore they should be used appropriately. Life is valuable, it's important, it is sacred. Now, the other one is that they believe that our lives, what's called the reason why our lives are sacred, is that they're not just created by God, but they belong to Him too. Okay, and that is the reason that they would use to back this up, is the fact that when we die, we return to God. Okay, so the Old Testament teaches about the fact that there's a time to live and a time to die. Okay, but you can also say, you could link it to the idea of the afterlife and judgment, about our souls returning to God. All right, so we belong to God, so being created by God, but also that we belong to Him still. All right, another one's the fact that we've been made imago Dei. All right, in the image and likeness of God. So, therefore, it's the idea that life is sacred because we're like God, we're valuable, okay, and that, therefore, as a result of this, our life should always be protected. Another one is the fact that all life is sacred because, and God has told us, therefore, do not kill, all right? One of the 10 commandments, all right, is thou shalt not kill. So, as a result of that, all right, it's quite clear that life is important and valuable. Another one is the fact that St. Paul teaches that humans are vessels of the Holy Spirit. Okay, and as a result of that, it's the idea that God dwells within us. So therefore, we should therefore look after ourselves and look after our lives, because as I said, God is within us. Another one that isn't in your revision guide, but the Catechism teaches, the quotation is, all life is sacred. Okay, so you say that it's something that the Catholic views are based on the teachings of the modern church that you find in the Catechism that says that all life is sacred. Now, if you get asked the question, explain why Catholics and Jews believe that all life is sacred. Again, quite a lot of the ideas here are exactly the same for Jews and Catholics. Okay, so the things to focus on are the fact that we've been made in God's image, that the Old Testament and the Tanakh both teach that there's a time to live and a time to die. All right, you can also use the idea for Catholic or Jewish about, I know the plans I have for you. So it's the idea that life is sacred because God has created us all for a reason. You could also say it was called link the Catholic idea with the teachings of St. Paul and the Catechism as well. So, because of the fact that they're both quite similar, I'm not going to go into that in any more detail. All you do is, if at the beginning I spoke about anything that came from the Old Testament or that came from the what's called the creation story in Genesis, all right, if anything that came from there, you can apply that to the Jewish ideas as well. And then when it came to the Catholic ones, all right, that you can use all that stuff I've just said, okay, but also the teachings of St. Paul and the Catechism as well. Now, if this comes up as an evaluation question, then the type of thing that you've got to make sure that you include as well is obviously the humanist view. All right. Now, the humanist view is that they don't believe in that life is sacred. All right, and the reason for that is that they don't believe in the existence of God. All right, so the answer would be that no, they don't believe life is sacred. Okay, and however, at the same time, you can say that they would still argue that life is valuable. So they disagree that life is sacred, but they'd still believe that life should be valued, and that's because that we've only got one life, and therefore it should be valued. Okay, and you should make sure that you use it and protect it. All right. Now, as a result of that, because obviously you've got to speak about the impact. Now, as a result of this, humanist views and to do with sanctity of life, this is all leading on to the ideas of abortion and euthanasia. All right, so when you talk about the impact, the type of thing that you can include in your answer when it comes to humanist views is the fact that they would be the impact of their beliefs about the sanctity of life is that they believe that that you should be pro-choice with regards to abortion. Okay, but with the second paragraph about the fact that it shouldn't be a decision that's taken lightly, and the fact that instead that it's something that if you are going to make this decision, it's an important decision, shouldn't replace what's called contraception, okay, but it's morally acceptable for you to be able to have an abortion. So that's the kind of impact that their beliefs about the sanctity of life would have on their views. If you're going to do the alternative side, obviously when you focus on about Catholic and the Jewish views, all right, that you're going to make sure that you mention the opposite of this, really, all right, that most will reject, or I mean, that if almost all Catholics will reject what's called the idea of abortion, okay, and the same when it comes to euthanasia, and it's very similar with what's called with the Jewish view as well, okay. So that's what we've got to do when it comes to the impact. One final thing I will add, all right, about a reason why life isn't sacred for the reasons that, for a non-religious reason, is the fact that one of the reasons that Catholics and Jews believe that that God is, what's called that all life has been created by God and is sacred, is the fact that the Holy Spirit dwells within us. And the Catholic view is based on St. Paul's teaching that humans are the vessels of the Holy Spirit. Well, non-religious people would argue against this and say, well, there's a real lack of evidence for this, okay, so that if you want, we've done, if the Holy Spirit dwells within us, why is it that if we've gone through surgeries, etc., that there's been no evidence of this whatsoever? Now, we know that they wouldn't be with the Holy Spirit because it's not a physical thing that you're able to see, but for a non-religious person who would doubt the plausibility of the existence of the Holy Spirit within us all, they would say, well, if you're going to use it as an argument to say that life is sacred because the Holy Spirit dwells within us, well, if there's no evidence of it, why is it that we should believe in this? So therefore, all right, that's the end, okay, of this video, and those are the Catholic views on the sanctity of life, the fact it's been created by God and for a reason, for a purpose, in His image, that we've been filled with the Holy Spirit, and the fact that we should therefore not kill is like a bit of a summary there of the views. Jews and Catholics, they have very similar views on life being sacred for the reasons I've just given. And then when we're looking at the humanist and non-religious views, that some believe that life, well, they all believe that life isn't sacred, but at the same time, they would say that it should be valued.